organized? We have everybody here?
We got two Johns.
Two Johns, that's right.
I'm well represented.
No extra charge for two Johns.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't have a gavel, but I'll knock on the screen. I call this meeting of the Kildeville Hills Board of Commissioners to order via Zoom for our second time. For the public, please bear with us. We're not doing this every day, so we're still getting the hang of it. Let's see. The first item of business is to pledge allegiance. Do we have a flag we can look at? I think that's how we did it last time. Oh, he's got it going. And there it is. And with the delay, it's always weird to try to do this in sync, but I will try just to not listen to you and say, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hopefully that sounded better to people listening than it did to us.
You did a great job, Mayor.
We're hanging in there. I try to get a little light on me there. All right, so you all have the agenda before you, both on your digitally and a paper copy. So if you like what you see on the agenda, we're looking for that motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
For those of you listening just audio only, that was a motion by John Windley. Do I hear a second?
Terry Gray, I'll second that.
We have a second for Mr. Gray. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, I will do a roll call vote. John, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ivy, how do you vote?
Yes.
BJ, how do you vote?
Yes.
And John, how do you vote? I'm sorry, called you John.
You did call me John.
Terry, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
All right, sounds good. We have an agenda. So let's see. First item is the public hearings. Casey, do you need to set this up or no?
I can just motion that we go in, or you can, Mayor. That would probably be the better way.
I make the motion that we go into the public hearing. Does that need a vote?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so I've made a motion that we are going to begin a public hearing. Is that for all of them, or just we have to do it each time?
In this case, it's there's really only one public hearing. There are subsets to it, though. I personally, because of what the limitations are tonight, I don't see any issue with you opening it up to the floor for items 1A through 1E.
As he stated, that's my motion. Do I hear a second?
Commissioner McAvoy, second your motion.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let me go. Mr. Windley?
Yes.
Miss Ingram?
Yes.
Mr. McAvee?
Yes.
McAvoy. I always say that wrong. McAvoy.
You got it now.
And I keep wanting to call you Mr. Windley now. Mr. Gray?
Yes.
All right. So we have a public hearing, and would staff like to go over it, or would you like me to do that?
We will do whatever you would like us to do.
It would probably be beneficial to lead off with Senate Bill 704, Mayor, to discuss what the new requirements are in regards to electronically conducted public hearings and why the board cannot actually take action tonight.
Right. So if anybody didn't quite catch that, this new rule also allows people to make public comment about these items we're discussing tonight electronically or via email, or to bring it by town hall for the next 24 hours. Do I have that right?
Yes, Mayor.
There's a tree outside my window. Hopefully that's not too distracting. It started to distract me. Okay, so we've got that covered. Item 1A is the off-street. You know what? Did I miss doing? No, that comes later. Oh, public comment accepted. Never mind. First item is 153.076 off-street parking and loading. And I would try to summarize that, but I'm afraid I'm going to muck it up. Why don't I leave that to you guys?
Sure. The First Amendment, like you said, 153.076, off-street parking and loading. It's an amendment that requires paved driveways for properties with 11 or more bedrooms, not to exceed a single or combined width of 20 feet. The setback will be 7 feet from the property line. There's an exception to the setback. It shall be 5 feet from the property line for driveways, access aisle, and parking area provided with a clearly marked access aisle, including no parking, with the following design requirements. There should be a minimum of one drive aisle designed open and unobstructed within 20 feet of the primary dwelling. Minimum access aisle shall be 10 feet. This came from our joint work session where we talked about several ways to do an access aisle, and this was the consensus of the board. So we bring it to you. The setbacks will be increased 2 feet if they choose not to do an access aisle with 11 or more bedrooms. If they do the access aisle, they can maintain the 5-foot setback. Planning board approved it on, let's see, at their March meeting.
Yeah, they recommend approval to us.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. All right, so I know we had some public comment on other items, but we're new at this. Is there a way for these 8 attendees to speak, or we're looking for somebody to raise their hand? Is that how that works for public comment? First time for everything.
Yeah, that's it.
We're checking, sir.
All right. I see the list, but I don't see any hands raised. Oh, wait, there might be somebody. There's Jeff.
Just a moment.
So Jeff, I think we're getting ready to unmute your audio so you can speak, but wait till Michael tells you you're good to go. I'm going to close this blind because it's trying to be crazy. There. Michael's awfully quiet.
Mr. Fabricant's audio is not seeming to want to pull up. So if he wants to type something in, we can share that. And I apologize for that. It's a technical glitch of the program.
All right, yeah, we're all new at this. Let's see here. Okay, Jeff says I can send you an email to you tomorrow if the audio isn't working. Sorry about that, Jeff, but we're looking forward to having your comments, and we will definitely take them into consideration.
And we will include those into the records.
Correct, right. He says thank you, or thanks. Yep. All right, we'll give one more call for anybody else that's on the call if they'd like to. And for the record, anybody watching live on Facebook, we're not looking at those comments, correct? It has to be through Zoom to do it today, right?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Hearing none. Casey, am I trying to just close this portion, or we just move on to the next?
I would move on. I'd move on to B.
All right. The next item is B. It's 153 setbacks in the zoning district. It's about the side yard setbacks and fire suppression systems. You guys up for summarizing that for me?
I sure can, Mayor. What you'll see in your packet for the zoning amendment is a change to each zoning district that single-family dwellings are permitted. And how it's worded is single-family and duplex dwellings greater than 6,000 square feet of total gross floor area shall have an additional 2 foot of side yard setback. And then it reads next, single family and duplex dwellings greater than 6,000 square feet of total gross floor area, equipped with a fire suppression system reviewed, approved, and inspected annually by the fire chief or his or her designee shall be exempt from the provision that I read before. And this was also a item that came from our joint work session with the planning board. And we were looking at incentives that we could provide to do some fire suppression on these larger homes we're seeing commonly built today. The planning board also looked at this request at I believe it was the March meeting as well. And they voted with an approval at 5-0 as well. Any questions, we'll try and help.
All right. Well, Jeff still has his hand up, but that might be from before, right?
Yes, sir. We're working to take that down.
Okay. All right, so we didn't get any via email for this one either, but we have discussed it at great length at other meetings. So it's the same group of people. If anybody is new out there, we're looking for comments on item 1B under the agenda approval, or I'm sorry, under the public hearings, item number 1. If you'd like to make a comment, you can raise your hand with the little button there to the side. All right. Seeing none, let's move on to item 1C. This is about landscaping requirements, same idea, the kind of houses that are over 6,000 square feet of lot coverage.
Mayor, would you like us to go through that?
Yes, please. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Similar to what you just said, this is requiring single family or duplex dwellings with greater than 6,000 square feet lot coverage to take into account for creating a vegetative buffer. When abutting non-compatible uses, aka single family dwellings with lesser than 6,000 square feet of lot coverage, they would have to have a vegetative buffer or a fence with ornamental landscaping. Your property lines adjoining right-of-ways would also have to have ornamental landscaping, which will also, create a nice visual character for the town. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. There's a lot of words in this ordinance, but it's very similar to our commercial standards for landscaping. I do think there was some questions at the work session regarding salt-tolerant plants, drought-tolerant plants. That is in our landscaping guide. I couldn't remember if we went over that prior or not, but we do have a landscaping guide already incorporated into our ordinance to help out some of our developers who maybe aren't familiar with this.
That was very helpful way back when I was doing it. So yeah, it's good to have that list.
Sure thing.
So once again, we've got, now we have 9 attendees watching. Anybody that might be new, I'm not quite sure if there's a new person in there. If you'd like to comment on this item, you can use that little raise your hand logo there. There's Beth. Should we try it again, or do we really not have audio for these guests?
Mayor Sproul, this is Michael Odell. We're apparently not getting audio for the attendees. We're trying. She can certainly do a chat and add that, but we do not have audio that can include them.
Beth said she can chat, and Beth, I have your letter as well, which we can read now, or we can read at a later time. Let's see. She says later is fine. All right, so we'll do that at the end of all of these. We'll read that into the record. All right. Well, this sort of takes the wind out of a public hearing if people can't comment live on the. Oh, she says I do have a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does have comment on this, on the landscape.
On landscaping. Okay, so we'll read it as she goes. Starting new territory here. And know Beth's typing right now, but we'll tell Beth that you could also add more comments for the next 24 hours. You can send it by email and they'll all go into the record. She has written, there was pushback the last time that was up for a vote. The other thing, Beth, I don't know if you were on the call at the very beginning, but by new rules set by the General Assembly for electronic meetings that came about, after all this COVID stuff, we cannot take action tonight. We actually have to allow public comment for 24 more hours after the meeting. It's a new rule. So we'll be taking action on this at the next meeting, if that helps. She says, I will email my comments tomorrow. Thanks, Beth. We appreciate it. All right. I guess, given the situation here, if anybody wants to jump in, just please raise your hand and use the chat function. Is there anybody else on this item before we move on to the next one?
I will say one more thing, Mayor.
Yes.
Similar to the last two amendments, this was recommended for approval by the planning board as well, but this was at the February meeting.
Right. Call that the pre-COVID era.
Because at the joint work session, the landscaping and the cottage courts, directly out of that meeting, you asked staff to go ahead and get working on those. So those actually went to the planning board in February. So that was recommended for approval on the planning board.
By everybody, yep. All right. Give it a few more seconds to see if anybody else wants to chime in. And seeing none, let's move on to the next one, which is 1D. This is the modification we were talking about for cottage courts and cluster homes, which is 153.310 and 153.311, which is about homes that about the lot dimensions abutting Route 12.
Yes, so this modification for cottage courts and cluster homes modifies the minimum lot width from 100 feet to 75 feet for lots abutting NC 12. Pretty short and sweet. Trying to incentivize some of that type of development. Likely, it's been said that we'd like to see some of that development on our ocean front. Possibly some cottage courts opposed to a large structure, but this may give someone the incentive to construct something like that, as we do have quite a few of those large 75-foot lots on our ocean front here and there. Additionally, like I said about landscaping, at the February meeting, the planning board did recommend this for approval at the February meeting 5-0 as well.
Good to have that encouragement that we approve this.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
This is John. I believe Ms. Brothers added another question to the chat box. We can address that.
Oh, I didn't see it. Let's see here. The question she asked was, do any of these regulations carry over to structures under construction? No, they do not. These are just items that are being proposed at the moment. We won't actually take action on them until a future date, and they would only apply to folks that have not pulled a permit yet. Is that a good way to put that?
New or substantially improved, correct.
Right, but things people have not applied for yet would.
Yeah, new after it's adopted, not new, not something that's under construction or anything that does,
right,
or that is already in the review process. If they have submitted for review, then they also are not going to be
apply to the new rules,
subject to the amendments. It'll be from the day after the approval or that night forward for new and substantial improvement.
Right. So Elizabeth, hopefully that answers your question. All right, so yeah, basically that last one we were talking about, the current one, was that we had already done some significant work with the previous board to encourage cottage courts and cluster homes on 100-foot lots. This is just changing that to allow it, all those same things to happen on 75-foot lots, to give folks with big lots on the oceanfront more options other than building a single very large home. They'd have other options other than that. All right. Seeing no other comments. Oh, she says thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which was a modification of the approval process for permitting commercial uses to administrative approval process. Can you give us a few details on?
Yes, this amendment's very long. It's 21 pages, but it's very simple. It just had to go in many sections of the code. Essentially what it is doing, it is allowing commercial site plan review to be done on the administrative level, assuming that all aspects of the site plan meet the zoning ordinance. And that being said, that it will allow commercial developments to be processed in 6 to 8 weeks rather than 3.5 to 4 months. It will also eliminate a lot of submittals. Right now they have to submit at least 40 of the same plan. This will bring it down to about 15.
Wow.
If there's several things in our ordinance that are addressed as unless otherwise approved by the Board of Commissioners, those items will still come to the board. If a developer decides to put those options on his plan and wants to have otherwise approved by the Board of Commissioners, that will come to you. If there are aspects of the code that are not being met and they want to be heard by the board, thinking that they shouldn't have to meet them, those site plans will come to you. But the ones that are in a full compliance with our zoning ordinance would be able to be reviewed and approved on the administrative level, streamlining the process tremendously, and also reducing a lot of paper and paperwork. Duck and the Dare County currently use this. Some of the other towns use it, but there's for different things,
Modified.
but not, yeah. They have a different code format than we do, so it's not apples to apples. So, but that is the 21-page amendment in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I know some of the board members that I talked to individually were a little confused about what exactly was under that, whether it was all the biggest projects, or it really is any project that doesn't check every box would come to us, basically a short way.
Correct.
So,
and all conditional uses will come to you.
all conditional uses, and these will also go through the planning board too, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So they're not skipping that; they would just skip us.
It would go to conditional uses and any modifications to the zoning ordinance that either they don't want to meet or has otherwise approved by the Board of Commissioners would come through the regular review process, which would be the Planning Board of Commissioners. As an example, loading zones. In our ordinance, we have a specific size for loading zones and how many have to be at an establishment. And then there is unless otherwise approved by the Board of Commissioners.
So if they want to deviate in any way from the rules that are on the piece of paper, they've got to come.
And a lot of times staff will agree that maybe they don't need quite as much and they don't want to put quite as much. But
and you'd recommend approval, but you still bring it to us.
But it would be a deviation from the letter of the ordinance, and we would bring it to you. Otherwise, when it comes to the board and it meets all the requirements, there's nothing that we can do to change what they've done if they meet all the rules. It's just a longer process, and
we're just holding it up,
trying to get people streamlined, moving forward as quickly as possible with a lot less cost up front for them, particularly with large sets of plans. That gets very expensive very quickly.
Right. Well, all the other items this board has talked about at length, this is one that we haven't talked about much, but we will talk about it at the next meeting. This, of course, is just for public comment. When we take action on it, we'll talk about it a little bit more. Again, trying to make this work for you guys. Anybody out there? I think we're up to 10 attendees. Would anybody like to chat in? Not seeing any. I will. So the letter from Beth, should that go into this part of the public hearing, or should I wait till public comment afterward? What's the right way?
I would read it. I would read it in now
Read it
before
in
you
now, 'cause
close
it's a-
public hearing.
It's about these. All right. Bear with me here. This is from Beth O'Leary and Martha Vaughn, who both live on the 1200 block on the beach road there. It says, first, let me thank our town leaders, fire department, police, and first responders for the nonstop commitment to your town and your community. I want to thank our former mayor, Dr. Sheila Davies, for keeping us informed and updated on COVID-19. So much has changed since our last public forum. Months of quarantine have brought out the best in our community. With all the change due to the pandemic comes uncertainty. It is this uncertainty we now fear. The amendments on the agenda tonight are positive steps to address potential safety and/or aesthetic concerns, but do little to address the larger issue at hand. This type of redevelopment has already saturated the market. Continuing with this trend is short-sighted. We may all soon find out just how risky this experiment has been. As I explained during the last public forum, there are likely events that could destroy the large event home wedding destination industry here in KDH, a strong hurricane, or a downturn in the economy. What we have now is much worse. A virus that has the entire world on alert, limiting gatherings to less than 10, and an economy tanking fast. Who knows how long it will be before tourism rebounds. I asked the board tonight to reconsider our original proposal to amend town code to limit square footage of single-family dwelling from 6,000 to 10,000 square feet. There are a few possible properties left for redevelopment. A compromise is possible. The coronavirus and its effects are unprecedented. Don't miss this opportunity to do the right thing. With so many unknowns facing a future of our economy and a recovery, maybe the future of redevelopment should be more affordable rentals with smaller carbon footprint. From the KDH Against Many Hotels. It says, develop smarter. Good advice. Thank you for that public comment. We appreciate it. Is there any other public comment before we close the public hearing? That's the word I was looking for. All right. Seeing none, Casey, I just say the hearing is now closed.
Make a motion to go back in to
Regular session.
regular session.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion to leave the public hearing and go back into regular session. Is there a second?
Mayor, Terry Gray, second that motion.
A second for Mr. Gray. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call vote. Commissioner Whitley? Yes. Commissioner Ingram? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I have a whiny puppy. Yes.
Commissioner McAvoy?
Yes.
And Commissioner Not Whitley. Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
All right, we are back in open session. So technically speaking, we have another public comment period at this point. Is that right? So one more chance for our attendees to make a public comment if you'd like. And you're also certainly welcome to send them via email tonight or tomorrow. All right. Seeing none, we will move on from public comment onto response to public comment. Would anybody like to respond to public comment? I guess there was no public comment in that section, so. Everybody good? All right. Introductions and presentations. Anything in that line item that I might have missed?
No, sir, nothing this evening.
All right. Under old business, we're going to look at the flood ordinance. That was sort of added to the agenda the second round there. What should we be thinking about here? Sorry.
I'm just bringing it back to you as y'all review and have questions regarding the flood damage prevention ordinance. As you know, we're going to a higher regulatory standard. We're going to implement a 8-foot elevation in the shaded X zones. We're also doing a freeboard in the AE and BE zones. Many of the other towns, I'm sure y'all have probably read, many of the other towns are also reviewing their ordinances. Their numbers are a little different than ours. At this point, we still have support from the home builders. They like our ordinance. They like the elevations that we've chosen. Our elevations are based on our historic maps and our historic flooding. That being said, it will be a higher regulatory standard that will apply to all properties within Kill Devil Hills. The X zone does not mean you don't flood anymore with the new maps. So when we go to public hearing for this, you will be having a public hearing, not only the ordinance that you've been given about a month ago, but you will also be having a public hearing on the maps. As we know, the maps are not exactly accurate, i.e. the ordinance has got the higher regulatory standard, but you will be responsible for adopting both by June the 18th. And I continue to bring it to you to ask if you have any questions or concerns regarding the ordinance, because that timeline is getting a little bit tight.
Anybody have any questions? I think most people are muted. That's the universal sign is I'm not talking. I'm muted. Terry, did you have something?
No, the only question I have, y'all have displayed the maps? The maps are displayed?
The maps are electronic, and we have a link not only on the planning department part of the website, but we also have the link on the main page under
Great.
news. Those links are available. We also have a email set up.
Floods.
I think it's flood. I'll get that information. I feel like it's called floodmaps@kdhnc.com, where people can
Okay.
email us directly and ask what the change in their flood zone is going to be, and also any questions they have about the ordinance. And so and Rachel has been amazing about getting information out, and most of her bulletins these days regarding the flood ordinance and the public hearing coming up and what the ordinance has, summaries and things like that.
I think y'all have done a great job. I really do. I just wanted to make sure those maps were available so that people could get them, and it sounds like they are. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All the maps are electronic now. We do not have paper maps.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it sounds like we've given the public a lot of opportunity to interact with this, and hopefully we're allaying any fears people have before we get to that point of the public hearing. So for all of those out there listening, if you have any questions, feel free to call the town or use that email address, or call me or whatever. We'll make sure that you get comfortable with what we're talking about doing. You said earlier on, you had said that we were really lined up with all the other towns. Has that kind of fallen apart, or is it just a little bit of small differences?
No, all the towns are doing the higher regulatory standard. A couple of towns, Dare County and Kill Devil Hills, and for the most part, Kitty Hawk, have chosen a elevation standard of 8. A couple of the other towns, that elevation is increased to more. It's the same. We're all doing the same theme. We all have the same setup, same backbone. The numbers are a little different based on their analysis and what they think is best for their town.
Right. But yeah, not huge differences then, right?
The theme is exactly the same. The structure's the same. The ordinances are set up the same. If you look at NAG says ordinance and our ordinance, and you look at section blank, you can turn and it'll be the same section in Nags Head, Kitty Hawk, Manio, Dare County.
In some places, instead of 8, it'll say 9, and that's the only difference. Yeah.
Yes, some will say 9. The other is in the X zone. Kill Devil Hills and Dare County are allowing lateral additions at the current height of the structure. Meaning that if you're at a 6 right now and you're in an X zone, we're going to let you do a lateral addition at exactly that same height. Some of the other towns are only allowing a 25% lateral addition. But if you did the analysis in Killable Hills, we have a different situation. Those houses that don't meet that 8-foot, majority of them are on very small lots.
They're already at this. They can't do a side.
Their lateral additions are
Inches.
So, and we also wanted to be able to, if someone needed to do a handicap accessible bathroom, that kind of thing, that it wouldn't have to have stairs to meet at elevation. A lot of lateral additions are taking a covered front porch and making it living space. It would be awkward to have stairs in that kind of thing, but it's within the existing footprint. So all those things combined for what we looked at specifically in our analysis for Killable Hills, we did not see a need to put a cap on lateral additions. Some other towns did. And that's what you're probably reading about.
Okay.
But
yep. Sounds like it's well thought out. You guys are on top of it. I appreciate all the hard work.
I just have a quick question as far as the timeline and in terms of the new legislation about public comment for public hearings being 24 hours after. So June 8th will be the official public comment. Then they'll have 24 hours and then we would make a vote after that. Is that correct? And then you need it by June 18th?
I'm gonna let Debbie address that. You're correct.
Okay. It's just tight, so I just want to make sure we're, doing.
I'll let Debbie.
I'm sure you have it handled, but I would just be curious to.
Yes, ma'am, you're correct. And what we would propose at this time would be that at the June meeting, you would recess that meeting until another date and time, either the next, whatever the next 24 hours is or the day after. And then you would act on the flood ordinance, which would adopt it prior to the 18th and keep Meredith from going totally gray.
That was my goal.
Yes, that's our goal. Yes, ma'am.
That's from happening.
What about me?
You're too young. Don't worry.
No worries for you.
We're not worried about you, Cameron.
Thanks, y'all.
So I guess we will at the next meetings make those adjustments to the calendar so that that's all out there for the public.
Yes, sir.
The public knows about the 8th. That's the important one for them to have their chance to say. All right. Any other comments about the old business, or we'll move on? Everybody good? All right. Moving on, new business. You all have the pieces in your packet about the rate increase from our vendor on curbside recycling. It's a couple of dollars. It has not been that many increases over a long period of doing business with them. So that has the town manager's recommendation. Were there any comments from the board members about it? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah. None here.
Is that a pull that up real quick here. Let's see here. Oh, yes. The motion is in order. That was what I was looking for.
Yes.
So would someone make the motion? Or?
Mayor, Terry Gray, I'll make the motion that we approve the rate increase to 12.76 per cart per month for the subscription type residential curbside recycling program.
Mayor John Windley here. Second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second motion. A motion from Terry and a second from John. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor. What? I got to go through it again. Your vote, Mr. Windley.
Yes.
Miss Ingram.
Yes.
Mr. McAvee.
Yes.
McAvoy. Gonna mess it up every time. Mr. Gray.
Yes.
All right, so that is taken care of. Next item on our agenda is committee reports. I think A couple of you mentioned some things that you wanted to bring up. Who'd like to go first?
Mayor, I'll make a stab at it if you don't mind.
Please do.
Of course, I have no report from the WRG, and the current TV government channel. I did speak with Skip today, and I have some information. Of course, he's been awful busy with the COVID-19 messaging, and he's finally stepped back from producing a video every day, and they've eased in producing roughly 3 to 4 video messages a week related to the COVID-19. They're about to wrap up work on a special COVID-19 related Destination Dare episode that's been produced and coordinated with the towns. It's they've been awful busy. They're on stable footing with the budget, and everything's looking good to resume normal operations with that. Also, I wanted to bring forward a little bit of information. It's not really a town committee, but I hope you'll let me proceed with this. I'm on the First Flight Society committee, and we're on a membership drive right at the moment, and we need to try to solicit as much membership as we can, additional, and the application is on in PDF format on www.firstflight.org. Anyone can take a look at it there, and certainly have a opportunity to take a membership out for the First Flight Society. It's something that we could really do, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Are there any other committee reports?
No.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the commissioner's agenda. Mr. Windley, would you like to go first?
I just have one quick question, and if there's not time to address it now, we do it in email, but has there been much thought as to what stage of COVID recovery we would need to get to reschedule our retreat?
That's a good question. Yeah, we'll have to kick that one around a little bit. That's good for bringing that up. Thanks. We'll have to give that some consideration. It may be that on the 22nd, there's different guidance from the governor. And it might be a week after that for phase 2. So let's see what the governor says, and then hopefully that'll give us a little bit more clarity on a better way to go forward on that. Because, yeah, I would like to get that back on the schedule. That'd be great.
Me too. I'd like to see it back. That's all I have.
Yeah, we have lots of other new things to talk about too. Budgets and things are going to be interesting. So we'll have topics a little bit. Ms. Ingram, do you have anything for the commissioner's agenda?
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. Mr. McAvoy?
No, Mayor, nothing this evening as well.
I was like, wait, Terry moved. He's over here now.
Yeah.
Well, I still got John's name though, but I did, Mayor, want to congratulate all the graduating seniors in Dare County, especially First Flight, and job well done to all the graduating seniors. Also, I wanted to ask, I received a letter from Jamie Lockwood, who is the Climate and Clean Energy Associate with Environmental North Carolina. Did anybody else receive that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thought was that what they were doing was soliciting a video. Personally, I think it would be appropriate to have the mayor do the video for the town. And then each of us could do one if we like. But, what do you guys feel about that?
I've been planning on doing one in case you were wondering. Yeah, it's just hopefully getting to it tonight after this meeting. We'll see.
Okay.
I did email him back and forth a little bit because I have had contact with him before, and it is tight. They're on a very tight timeline that I'm not
Yeah, they really want it by the end of the day today. I need a deadline to get stuff done, apparently. So I'll see if I can
Okay.
get it to them tonight.
All right.
Or we could ask him if there might be an extension, if they could do a 24-hour extension as well.
I think they're going to hand it to an editor, and if they could probably hand them another digital file right after. But yeah, they're trying to put together a video probably for Hands Across the Sand or one of these
Right.
days coming up soon.
That's what they indicated. So, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's all I
I'm
have
going to try
now.
to support that. Thanks for reminding me. So much to do. All right, I guess that was everybody, right? So the next item is the mayor's agenda. I wanted to bring up proclamation. You saw it in the packet about Peace Officers Memorial Day and Police Week, which is really this week, started already. Yesterday goes through the 16th. It's kind of taken off nationwide. It was actually established by Congress back in JFK's day in 62. And we just really want to honor all the sacrifices made by our police and folks during this week. We really want to call on our citizens to observe Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week this week to help raise awareness about the role that they play in our society. So the motion really that I'm putting forward is to adopt proclamation, the proclamation designated May 15th, 2020 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 10 through 16, 2020 as Police Week. So that's my motion. If there's a second out there, I would appreciate it.
Mayor, Commissioner McAvoy here. I second that motion.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Windley, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Ingram, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. McAvoy, I guess I have your vote
Yes.
since you made the second. And Mr. Gray.
Yes.
Thank you for your support on that. I really appreciate it. The other item I was going to bring up for Mayor's agenda was a discussion that's been ongoing with each of us one-on-one and with staff for the last 7 days or so. As we start to approach, this opening this weekend and the phase 2 coming up in a week or so, as a former restaurateur and worried about, we have a whole lot of restaurants in our town that employ a whole lot of our citizens. I've been working on ways that we might be able to support our restaurants and our restaurant workers in this challenging time they're about to face. It's been a challenging time getting to this point. We know there'll be a lot of restrictions on them going into having only a portion of their dining rooms open or whatever the governor says in the next phase. So some of the ideas that I've been that I've run past you guys that I'd like to put into an executive order in the town is to allow restaurants during this challenging time to be able to use their parking lot or green space outside of their restaurant for outdoor dining that is not currently allowed in our town ordinances. And this would allow everybody a little more, I always say, can't use the word safety, to give everyone more of a peace of mind when they go out to eat and hopefully be able to support these restaurants that are a vital part of our community and economy and our town. I'd take that another step further. We would allow them to use up to 25% of their designated parking to put tables outside. You'd want to put a fence around, that sort of thing. So we're working on the language for that. And I've run all that past you guys, but I wanted to use this public forum to sort of bring it out to the public. And if anybody has anything more feedback, I've talked to about a dozen of our restaurant owners here in town, as well as the president of the Restaurant Association for the Outer Banks. And they have been in consult with folks at the state level Hospitality Association and the national guidelines that are going along with it. And it's one of those few things that we can do as a town to really help in a tough situation and help with everybody's ability to find a little bit of normalcy in this very challenging moment. So expect to see a little bit more from that in the next day or so. But I wanted to bring that out so you guys, so the public could hear about it. That's my agenda there. And the next is the town manager's agenda. And I know we've got the consent agenda. Oh, that's coming down a little bit. Sorry.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I can interrupt you, were we going to talk about the possibility of revisiting the lighting issue?
That's a good point. Yeah. As some of you know, we have had some conversations with a current development that's just been wrapping up about, and there's been some discussion about what is it that isn't allowed in terms of lighting on commercial structures and that sort of thing. And it definitely got folks scratching their head and thinking, well, maybe that deserves a revisit. We could definitely take that up on an agenda in a future meeting. But I know that in the meantime that we need to address the fact that it's what's the word I'm looking for? Nonconformity is not the right word. It's a violation, I guess, at the moment. Is that right?
Correct.
So technically, enforcement measures may come into play, or maybe they already have. I'm not sure. But hopefully we can remedy that, or if that's the will of the board, we'll see. We'd like to put that on the agenda for the next meeting. Does that sound good for everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be good for me.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for bringing that up, John. Appreciate it.
You're
Terry.
welcome.
Terry.
Well, you're welcome.
Terry. Second, John.
So town manager's agenda. Sorry.
Nothing this evening, sir. Thank you.
All right. And the town attorney is back. Casey's down there in the corner. Do you have an agenda, sir?
Nothing for me, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for all you do. We appreciate it. The next item is the consent agenda, which you
Yes,
have
sir.
in your packet. Yes.
Yes. First item on the consent agenda, the minutes from the April 22nd, 2020 meeting. The following budget amendments. Budget amendment number 22, which uses tax forfeited funds to purchase police equipment for 3 vehicles. Number 23 is Hurricane Florence repair, the speech nourishment area sand fence and sprigging. And then the following 3, 24, 25, and 26 are from Hurricane Dorian. These are reimbursements from FEMA. Number 3, you have in your packet the partnership organization annual reports from the community care clinic up there, as well as the interfaith community outreach. The YMCA and Nags Head Woods were presented to the board earlier this year. And staff recommends approval of the consent agenda as presented, and a motion would be in order.
All right. Well, it's good to have incoming money in a tough time like this from, thank you, FEMA, and great organizations that we support there. Is there a motion?
Mayor, this is John Winley. I'll make a motion. We approve as presented.
All right. We have a motion from Mr. Winley to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
This is Ivy. I'll second.
A second from Ms. Ingram. Any further discussion? Hearing none. How do you vote, John?
Yes.
Ms. Ingram?
Yes.
Mr. McAvee?
Yes.
I always see Winley's data. And Mr. Gray?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for supporting the consent agenda.
Thank you very much.
All right. This brings us to the point in our meeting where we have one more option for the terribly awkward Zoom public comment. Is there anybody out there who dares jump in with a chat? I really do encourage you to do so if you have any other thoughts. And if you don't want to get into the chat here, please feel free to submit an email for any time between now and tomorrow afternoon, I guess. All right. Seeing nothing in the chat there. We will close the second public comment. And given that there was none, there's not much response to public comment. If there's anything I've forgotten, now is the time to speak up or have a motion to adjourn. Want to stay on all night? We can do it.
Mayor John Winley here. I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Winley. Is there a second?
I second that, Mayor. Commissioner McAvoy.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, who's in favor? Mr. Winley, are you in favor?
Yes.
Ms. Ingram, are you in favor?
Yes.
Mr. McAvee, are you in favor?
Yes.
And Mr. Gray, he's got the thumbs up. I think that counts. Yeah. All right, so we're unanimously adjourning the meeting. Thank you for struggling through this one more time. We really appreciate it. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
How do I turn it off?
See.